Katt went up there to Club Shay Shay. Shout out to Club Shay Shay. He got the tight shirts with the hoodie. I mean, I got a hoodie too, but I can't really put it on. Let me
The
see.
pants were pretty tight too.
Yeah. The pants. Oh well, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me see. See, we got my pants. Nah, I didn't get the
No, it's
pants.
too much slack. It's too
But
much slack still. Yeah,
come
it's
on,
too
come
much.
on, Skip. No, but anyway, so yeah, so he was he was on Club Shay Shay, and man, he went in. He said a lot of things. And we're gonna eventually have some comedians on there because I would love to get their perspective on some of the things Katt mentioned specifically when it came to infighting in the
Yeah.
comedic world. Because that's they're part of a fraternity of brothers and sisters, and you don't get a chance to see the beefs the way that we've been seeing them in the past few years. And to be honest, a lot of them have been involved in Katt Williams because he tends to put the business out there a little bit
More
sooner
vocal.
than everybody else, way more vocal.
Yeah.
Uh, so so he spoke about how they're like little cliques
Hmm.
amongst the comedians and how they give opportunities and sometimes they block opportunities for people. They play little games with each other with promoters with the venues and all type of stuff. And the biggest one, stealing jokes, that was a huge topic there. I would just love to get some comedians on here to kind of talk about that, whether or not they've experienced any of that. They don't have to say any names, but I think that's a very interesting thing to have a group of folks whose lifestyle, honestly, is somewhat untold. You only hear
Hmm.
about the big ones, and you hear about their lifestyle, what they've gone through coming up. But the way Katt is exposing a lot of this stuff, you can tell it get really, really messy. And
Yeah.
people who are in that field, they probably should know the ins and outs of the comedic world. You have anything to add to that?
Well, I think we're looking at social grouping. Oops. Social grouping is not new. It's cliques and people collective mindsets. I don't think it's new. I think that we're just paying more attention to it because, of course, now it's more highlighted. You see more of it in our social groups. It's people are clicked up and socially partnered up. But it's social grouping. Social grouping has happened throughout history, but it's when those social groups become malicious,
Yeah.
when those social groups begin to block other people's opportunities and are doing things in the background that are creating the idea of underdogs. And I think that's more of what Katt was highlighting, that he's the underdog, I'm the underdog, not necessarily because I don't have these opportunities, but because there's a specific group of individuals who are blocking me and I'm
Mhm.
still rising to the top. So 21 million views when I last looked. I'm sure there's more than that now. However, he's proving that he definitely is the underdog who is rising to the challenge. Throughout his interview, there were a couple things that stood out to me, being in the field that I'm in, that just highlighted some of that group think, some of
Mhm.
those social groupings, and just where we see how one concept can infiltrate and create a group mindset,
Yeah.
and then people just kind of go with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the temperature nowadays. Honestly, it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who,
Not a
when you
group
put
think.
something out there, that boom, everybody's on it. And
Yep.
that's something that's been it's been mastered by the powers that be, and now it's just rolling. There's nothing really you can do about it. So speaking of what the groups, but he actually has someone specifically that he loved talking about, who he's spoken about in the past, and that's Kevin Hart.
Oh yeah,
And their
absolutely.
situation has always been it's
Tumultuous.
always it's just always been something going on between those two. Um, from what I can remember, Katt Williams was huge. And that one specific stand-up when he put the information out there as far as what he experienced going to those mansion parties and stuff like that. I think that was the moment where they just was like, you know what, this guy talked too much, and he kind of was put on the back burner in the group. Now we didn't really notice it at first, but what happened quickly is that it went from Katt Williams, and all of a sudden, then Kevin Hart. Boom. Now Kevin Hart is this real funny guy. He's out there out of nowhere, and then Katt Williams decides to address it, and it just went from there, and it hasn't really stopped. He says some very interesting things. We've heard clips of him going off on Kevin Hart about going back and forth a roast, challenging one another. We've heard him mention that Kevin Hart is a plant.
Absolutely.
If he's not a plant, then put up 5 million, to see who's the better comedian.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of little things that's being said, and it's really heating up to the point where now other people are kind of just catching stray bullets. So what do you think about the interview and what's going on between he and Kevin Hart?
So him and Kevin have a long history of tumultuous interactions, and so he mentioned in his interview with Shannon Sharpe that Kevin was the only comedian that's come out who had a show, who starred in a movie, who led a movie, and no one's ever done it since him, before him, and since him, and that is a good indicator that he might be a plant. But in my personal opinion, just looking at kind of some of the way that Katt himself moves, I'm not so convinced that he himself is also not a plant. And why do I say that? Because if you know anything about the Illuminati, then it's a very, very prestigious social group. It's a society, it's a secret society, but you have to do certain things to participate, but you also can't do certain things against it without there being consequences. And even Katt Williams, in his avid talks against being a part of it, has been filmed with doing symbolic, hand gestures, like taking symbolic pictures. I mean, one eye symbolism, of which I'm very into. I'm a self-proclaimed conspiracy theorist. Yeah. And I look at those things, and so I've seen things, and of course, the internet is a digital blueprint. Nothing, the internet doesn't forget anything, so you can find everything on the internet. And I've gone back and looked at some of those things where he was participating. Maybe you have decided not to participate in the homosexuality that's associated with it, but I do not firmly believe that you're out 100%, as we've seen with just some of the freedom of his speak.
That's a very interesting point that you bring up, because when I'm listening to a lot of people's reactions to the Club Shay Shay interview, I don't know why it don't sound right saying that, but anyway, the Shay Shay interview.
I said it.
Excellent.
So the thing is that a lot of people are caught up in, like you said, the gossip side of it. How he brought up, how Katt brought up, what's his name on Friday? What's his name?
Chris Tucker.
He brought up Ricky Smiley, because Ricky Smiley was on Shannon Sharpe's show prior to Katt Williams getting there, and he said some things about him being able to be casted as Money Mike at first, and then he ended up being the Santa Claus, which fit him better. Katt was like, "Nah, that didn't happen. How can that have happened if he's the one that built the character himself? It was a small role that really didn't have any significance at all, and then it grew into something because he had his input into it, and
Absolutely.
and that caused a firestorm where a lot of people did address that, including Ice Cube himself. Ricky
Yep.
Smiley also did that, and he had, I think, his agent get up there and say no. Actually, he did audition for the part. What do you think about how information is passed? Because a lot of people heard that and they just like, yeah, Cat telling the truth. Cat, because the way he
Yeah.
talks, the way he's putting business out there, they're used to hearing him say some real slick stuff. He real slick with his tongue too, says a lot of good things. Um, but what do you think about people just choosing a side prematurely? And then after everyone's speaking, now there's more information. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that we're a society that tends to love the messenger. Once you love the messenger, you don't necessarily question the message. And I think that Katt is a proponent of that. Everybody loves Katt Williams because, I heard so many people say, "Oh, this is the year of truth," and Katt is the ringmaster of truth. He's the music man. He's leading the parade of truth. And it's like, not so much. Here, I don't think that he's not being honest. I think that he's leading with the details that he has, because as we saw with Ricky Smiley and then his agent and then Ice Cube, who came up the rear to confirm a lot of what he said, it was moreover both persons were right.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out that both of them were correct. At one point, Ricky Smiley read for Money Mike, and he was at the time best person for the part. And then they, just like in interviews, hey, we interview you, you're on a panel, we see you, we're like, this is the best person for it, but because of legalities or whatever, we have to honor the other people that showed up and interview them. And then throughout that process, you find somebody else who nails it, and now adjustments have to be made. So you see Ricky Smiley get it at first, Katt comes in and nails it down, offers some nuggets, takes this role and just brings it alive, and boom, you're it. Yeah. However, just like certain other positions, everything is need to know. So we don't go and tell Ricky Smiley you didn't get it because we thought Katt Williams was a better Money Mike than you. We just say, hey, we got a better part for you, and here's where we like to put you. Exactly. And that information is not transferred, and so here now you have two individuals with two completely different perspectives, but when you narrow it all down, both individuals are right.
Yeah. And that reminds me and this isn't a new thing. I think people got to understand that I don't believe that they tell people all the details because it can cause issues. Just like when you're at a job, you don't talk about pay.
Right.
Because your experience may be warranted for you to get a certain amount of pay. Someone entry level, same position, doing the same work, but they don't have the credentials and haven't quite earned that top dollar yet, may not get it. But what do people do? They talk about the pay, and then all of a sudden, now the team is all shook up. People trying to understand, well, why this person making more money? I'm doing the same thing they doing, and this and that, and but that's why you don't talk about it. So this is the same scenario, but it was just a slightly different. Like, well, like you said, as a need to know. They didn't want to get rid of him because they already, gave him the spot, but they was like, let me just let us find something for him to do, and
something more fitting to his more fitting to his skill setting, to his skill set.
And he said it. So it's still people that don't get that both of them were right. It's people that still don't get it. And another thing too, I want to say, because I saw this last night. Ricky Smiley actually had a breakdown on live. Not too long ago. I think a day or so ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that he lost his son. This was like the 1 year anniversary of him losing his son.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the comments were brutal.
Yeah.
People were going in there and they were thinking it was because of Katt. And they're like, oh, why record something and then post it and cry and all that stuff. Listen, when somebody grieving over something, That's just an addition to what's already going on. He's already holding on to that. So we have to stop looking at these celebrities as they're just up these grand people who don't go through anything in life. No, people they're people just like you and I.
Yeah.
Maybe they face things on a grander scale that we're going to be talking about a little bit later. But they still have things that they have heavy on their hearts, and he had a breakdown right then and there on the spot, and I felt for him. But look at those comments. People didn't really they weren't really feeling him, and I think that has something to do with that messenger thing that you said. That
Hmm.
that it was a line drawn in the sand, and if they don't really feel Ricky Smiley because they felt he lied, they're not going to have any compassion or empathy
Yeah.
for him at all. And it was really sad to see. Did you see that?